Trying to see if we're live, if I'm on live here, guys. Trying to set things up. I'm at home here now, so let's see how this goes. There we go. Guess we'll pause that and I'll share it. Twitter it up here. Okay, let's see if this is working out here. All right, somebody type something here and see if this is working. Looks like I'm on live here. Checking things out. Let's see. 5x5. Good to hear there. Wait for a few people to get on here before we start talking. Yeah, I don't know if we're ever going to get spring at this rate. It actually does look a little bit better this weekend and coming up. Turd Ferguson, that's a cool name. Garrett Hartung is getting Taco Bell at the moment. You should stop by and they have Allsups in Oregon, Garrett. It's going to be windy around the area. It's going to get windier the further you go towards the Whidbey Island, San Juan's, Bellingham, North Washington coast area. Or if you want some real wind, go out on the Vancouver Island coast tomorrow. You can see that system out here. 987 low. Yeah, thanks for supporting the channel, everybody. We're getting towards 7,500 subscribers. Like I said before, if we get to 10,000, I can get my merchandise channel associated with a YouTube page, so that should be kind of fun. Then I can start to put better items on there and whatnot. Salem yeah, that's the thing about this. The people, the Oregonians here are going to get left out of this windstorm, kind of in the Willamette Valley there. If we take a look at the HRRR here, this was the 0Z that's running, that just finished running here. So if we look at this, I mean, you might get some gust up towards 30, but you see the stronger winds are going to be definitely just south of Olympia, up towards through the Puget Sound, and looks like Whidbey Island and Bellingham are going to win this round here, as well as the North Washington coast. And Astoria, the Europeans have kind of been showing something less than this, but it looks like that's the cutoff is kind of somewhere down by, maybe down towards Seaside a little bit. Astoria, Washington coast, getting the best gusts. Yeah, Nathan Wolf. I have dents in the Tesla. It's official. You could see it. You could see it in the daylight a lot better. It's kind of nuts. Yeah, it sounded kind of fun to get some dents on the Tesla. I didn't actually think I would get dents, but it really happened. So yeah, the hood is dented up. There's some dents on some of the trim. And for a second there, I thought maybe one of the windows was going to break. King Tut says, tell us your opinion on weather between June and September. Yeah, you know, that's going to be, we're going to have probably some warm periods during the summer. I mean, here, we can just do this real quick here. We'll go 8 to 14 day forecast. Climate Prediction Center here. And let's see if we'll go a little bit out further. Outlooks. Oops, I typed the wrong one there. Hold on a second, guys. We'll do that in a minute here, guys. I'll look at some other models here prior to that. Let me actually look at the long range. I'll do something a little bit more fun than that. So we'll see the European seasonal. Let's take a look at what that says. This is valid for May, for example, and of course it's short term, so it picks up that trough in the Gulf of Alaska pretty well. And this just kind of goes month by month. It's kind of funky here. So this was initialized like over 2 weeks ago here too. So we'll look at some other long range models. But you can see for June, we're still looking at a little bit of troughing, maybe around average. I don't know. The heights look a little bit higher out over the Pacific, but that could leave us in a cooler northwest flow there for June. But look at this for July. We've got some ridging going on here in the long term here on the European for July. So maybe we'll warm up there in July. Same thing with August too. So just having a La Nina year, like Cliff Mass said recently, does not mean we're just going to have a cold summer automatically. As you can see, kind of the heights, the ridging a little bit above average as we go on in through October. Yeah, that motel event, man, that was nuts. I was afraid to sit down. Dan sat on the bed for a second, and I was like, I thought he was a little bit crazy for doing that, but he got up, he went and took a shower, so he was good after that. But it was kind of crazy that, I mean, it reeked of cigarette smoke worse than any place really I think I've ever smelled. This was initialized last night, actually, the CFS monthly here. Check this out. Looks like some troughing for June. Like the only place, of course, on North America, really, the troughing here, Washington, Oregon, Northern California. Put that into July, though, and you can see the heights are a little bit higher than normal. August, no real signal there. But yeah, it's picking up that troughing for May. But this is a little bit, I don't know. I think this must be for the second half of May here. We slept at what was it, the Motel 8 down the street a little bit. It was much better than that budget inn. Yeah, thanks King Tut. Thanks for the support. Yeah, click like if you guys would. Make sure to subscribe too. We're trying to get to 10,000 here quickly so I can get that merchandise channel associated there. La Nina summer. Yeah, it's coming here, and it looks like we're going to be in La Nina. Some of the models kind of have us coming out of La Nina like during the winter, and I don't know if that's going to occur here. I think that's probably just something to do with the models. So we might go La Nina all the way through winter again this year. Yeah, it's been pants weather like Kyle says there. It's been kind of nice. Like today was, it's pretty warm in the house actually today, but that's probably just because I'm not used to the warmer weather. More thunderstorms with La Nina. You know, there's not really a huge signal. Sometimes during El Nino years, we get some pretty good monsoon moisture up into here too, but that can be just kind of a random pattern, probably within any year where we get monsoon moisture. That's when we get the really good like night thunderstorms where we build up, you know, moisture moves up out of the southwest, the desert southwest, and out of the Gulf of California all the way up into Washington. It does that every few years. Those are the real good thunderstorms, the one that go on at night, or the showers that come off the Cascades and they're moving from the southeast towards the northwest out over the Puget Sound, like in the evening hours, and we get those thunderstorms that are just awesome looking, high-based thunderstorms, very visible, nice looking, make for good sunsets. And if you're really lucky, you get sunset with lightning. Yeah, incredible fog. Yeah, I mean, the coolest thing I ever do there is, all right, Farhan Ali, thanks for the support there. Yeah, I mean, storm chasing with a Tesla, it's a little bit more difficult just because you have to, the superchargers aren't as numerous as gas stations. When they become as numerous as gas stations, then it'll be easier to chase with that. But yeah, it does add some time to your chasing for sure. I'm hoping we get those super bolts this summer. I would love to see those. I love those summer thunderstorms. Oh yeah, the surge down the strait is looking kind of vigorous tomorrow. Let's actually take a look at that too here. On the HER, we'll just take a look at 8. We'll kind of pick out the timing there of these winds coming in. So you can see it pick up for the coast and the Olympic Mountains there first. And check it out just over Whidbey Island, Port Townsend area. Wind really starts ripping at about, what is that, 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning. So anybody out there in Whidbey Island, the San Juans, you're going to hear the wind pick up. It's probably going to wake you up, actually. I mean, it's not really an atmospheric river here. I'll show you that graphic here in a second, but you can see 5 a.m. the winds really pick up, and they're out of the south across Whidbey Island, San Juans, up towards Bellingham, and start to go through the Puget Sound a little bit better too here later in the morning. Looks like the Seattle's peak wind started about 9 a.m. there. It's about 9 a.m. It's going to wake some people up here in the morning, and then you'll see that westerly surge come down the strait here. Check this out. Pretty good shot of wind here as it comes around Vancouver Island. Look at some of these winds, man. So yeah, that looks like it's going to hit the outer skirts of Port Angeles there, and it's really going to hit the San Juans. So the San Juans are going to get the southerly winds first, and then look at that, switches to the westerly winds at about noon and going to get the western portion of Whidbey Island there too, maybe even towards Anacortes area there. And look at some of these winds coming through eastern Washington. Right now there's blowing dust advisory and wind advisories for eastern Washington tomorrow. Let's take a look here. You can see blowing dust advisory, visibility down to 0 at times. What does tomorrow Port Angeles look like? Yeah, it's going to pick up overnight. It'll be breezy over there. Not as breezy as just off to your east, though, for Port Angeles. Yeah, Nathan Wolf asked that he was in a hailstorm recently, got foggy near the ground. When you drop hail into the ground, it really cools the atmosphere and it really releases a lot of moisture. So basically, you're turning that lower layer of the near the ground, you're basically bringing that to its dew point. Yeah, you're adding moisture to that lower layer and you're cooling the atmosphere too. So it's kind of a double whammy there. Kind of a precipitation fog. Yeah, Gordon was asking about the Tesla there too. Yeah, I got some good dents on it. There's probably about 20 little dents on the hood. There's dents on the side and a little bit on the roof there. Yeah, it was. I did not actually expect to get dents on the Tesla. Lacey area, how strong are the winds? Depends on who you look at here. Let's check out the NAM 2. The NAM 3KM just ran. And you can see Seattle topping out around 40, but check out like... I believe Lacey's down here. Look at this mid 40s. That's going to be a problem for some of these areas. There's going to be some nuisance power outages probably. I don't think this is going to be the kind where trees are falling and killing people or anything like that, but nuisance power outages. And it's definitely unusual here. We're coming up on late May here in a few days. Yeah, they're just dimples. They weren't like paint gouging dents or anything. But yeah, look at Bellingham, 49. You can see 49, so up towards 50 miles per hour for some of the areas up north. Some of the higher terrain, like if you're off in the Naches or backcountry, Mount Rainier, just west of Yakima, I mean, you're really going to be cooking on some of the higher terrain. I hope that nobody's camping out there in that higher terrain, because you could get that would be some danger for maybe a falling tree out there. So let's see when those winds calm down here. So they really peak into Puget Sound about, when is that? Between 7 and 9. And then the afternoon, the NAM peaks in the afternoon here, actually. Just afternoon. Early afternoon for Seattle. And you can see it remains blustery really throughout the day into tomorrow night. Then it calms down for western Washington. But look at the westerlies still going down the Strait of Juan de Fuca towards Whidbey Island there too. And the higher terrain of Cascades, east slopes of the Cascades of Washington and Oregon are going to still be windy all the way through Thursday. As you can see, there's not much of a let up. This system is just really dragging off to the east, causes a strong pressure gradient. And it's just kind of dragging through the mountains there. So you could have off and on blowing dust for all the way through Thursday for eastern Washington there. Blowing dust model here. Yeah, end of August 2015, that was a really good windstorm. Upper 40s for Seattle, power outages. I was actually in eastern Washington for that. We went to the wind farm out there, and the turbines were just cooking. Yeah, so, I mean, as you can see here, as you look at the NAM, Ben's weather updates is asking, why is this called a big storm? And it really, for areas of Oregon, it's going to be less than Washington. As you can see here, generally the very extreme northwest Oregon coast up into Vancouver Island of British Columbia. Really south of that, it's not going to be anything that unusual for the Oregon coast, even in May. I mean, you're going to get gusts in the 30s or 40s, but you guys are you have a lot of practice with wind speeds of that type. And even in the Willamette Valley, you might get to the mid 30s, but generally it's going to be in the lower 30s, the gusts. Puget Sound a little bit stronger, and stronger still from Whidbey Island and the San Juan. So it's a seasonably strong storm would be a more accurate explanation for this storm. Jonathan Pulley. Yeah, so there's wind advisories for the Washington coast and northwest Washington interior, eastern Washington. There's also blowing dust advisory. And they probably should put out some kind of, the higher terrain of some of the areas by Mount Rainier, they're really going to get hammered here. Right now, I don't see any flooding problems. It depends for some areas how fast we warm up. But generally, I mean, by far, our worst floods come during atmospheric rivers during the winter, especially when you raise that snow level to 8,000 feet and you're just pumping that atmospheric river in here. But let's look at that real quick here. So this is precipitable water normal anomaly here, and if we take a look at this here, you can see the system here in the Gulf of Alaska steering our low pressure towards Vancouver Island. Then you can see the one out here for Hawaii, and you see this tap of subtropical moisture come all the way from the tropics all the way towards western Washington, Vancouver Island. So there you can see the storm spin up on the north tip of Vancouver Island here. So it is an atmospheric river, but it's going to be short-lived for BC and Washington and really Oregon. And you can see it's kind of progressive as it slides down, and we get the cold air behind the system there. So this atmospheric river is not hanging out for long, so it wouldn't be assigned a category. You'd need it to hang out for at least 24 hours for that to be the case. But man, look at this moisture being drug up over the Hawaiian Islands down there. It's going to be muggy out there. Third year La Nina. I mean, the one back in 2000 was not really 2000 and 2001 was not really, it was cold and we had good mountain snows, but it wasn't unique by La Nina standards. But it definitely was cooler than normal. Yeah, they weren't yeah. Doinko there says the last two third-year La Ninas were, yeah, they weren't exceptionally extreme or anything. That doesn't mean that this one couldn't be extreme, though, here coming up. Yeah, so Dennis is asking, my app is saying 25-30 mile per hour winds in Olympia area. So yeah, it's going to be higher locally some areas. So as we look at the swath here, you can see, I mean, it says 38 on the HER here, but you can see areas just in and around there. About 40 miles per hour. Reflect the sun. Thanks for the support. Any fourth year La Ninas? Yeah, it would be a first. If we get a fourth year La Nina, that would be a first. And I'd almost pay to see that. I mean, that would, I'm not sure exactly what that would mean, but that would be very interesting. But you can see the winds are really supposed to be stronger up towards the Tacoma area versus the Olympia area. But still, when you get these trees with the new growth on them, I mean, it can really pick up the damage on these trees quite a bit. Those leaves really act as a sail. If we see 43 in Seattle tomorrow, that's going to be a pretty decent windstorm, especially for this time of year. Yeah, Cliff Mass. I saw that he did that. I have not read his blog yet. I saw that Cliff Mass mentioned that storm, and it is quite an unusual storm. I mean, you can really see it ramping up on the satellite imagery here now. Actually, let's do the infrared. It kind of shows it better there. But you can see it already starting to curl up here. It's going to slam into Vancouver Island. Baroclinic leaf out in front of this here too. Yeah, Cliff does a good job with his write-ups. Yeah, Mount Baker did have over 1,000 inches of snow. Actually over 1,100 inches of snow, I think it was. Just an incredible snow year up there. So the mountain snows did really good. We didn't have like crazy snowstorms down low for the most part. There'll be snow in the mountains with this round. Yeah, we're doing good with the mountain snows. Especially, it's good when it falls up in BC there too. Hopefully, it helps keep those wildfires down. That's a lot of the times we get our wildfire smoke from British Columbia, the forests up there when they burn during the summer. Yeah, the snow is great. We're getting it late. It says reflect the sun. But yeah, I can see the storms tap all the way back into the tropics, all the way down past Hawaii there, and it's got this tap all the way up into the Pacific Northwest. Kind of what's spawning it to be a pretty decent punch here. We got some pretty chilly air here and some pretty warm, moist air causing the strong gradient here. And we call these extratropical systems. So these storms are born out of these gradients, the colder polar air and the warmer subtropical air to the south. It's a gradient that spawns these storms versus like a hurricane, which is more of it's a warm core storm. Basically, it's a lot of heat trapped along the equator, and you get, yeah, it's a lot of heat that builds up along the equator, and it's not borne out by a gradient between the polar areas. It's just a lot of warm air that's built up, and then you get thunderstorms and the Coriolis effect from high pressure. starts to shape those thunderstorms into a spinning mass and get a hurricane down there. So that's extratropical systems are different in that aspect, where it's much colder air versus much warmer air. It's a battle between the gradients there. Dennis Azevedo, thanks for the support, buddy. I need to look at that, actually. Ben Randall asked about the status of the MGO active phase. I have not looked at that in at least a week now, so I need to look at that. I'll probably do something about that tomorrow. I need to write myself a reminder. I forgot to do that the last couple days here. All right, Dennis, thanks for the support. Have a good night. Was Mount Baker far enough north? The atmospheric rivers were still snow. That's a potential, but also it's probably because we were getting cold air off of the Gulf of Alaska here too, and just persistent onshore flow with cold air aloft. And those storms really target the Mount Baker area. Well, Tacoma sometimes sees stronger winds, not always, but it's probably because of the pressure rise coming through. I have not looked specifically at why it's getting. We can look at the pressure here. Let's look at this. Is it not showing one on here? Surface temperature, wildfire smoke. We'll just do the NAM 3KM there and do pressure. Whoops. Oh, that's why I have to back out. Weather bell's a little funny like that. That confused me for a moment. You have to back out to a wider one to get the surface pressure. There we go. So there you can see that low pressure kind of swinging. The NAM only extends out this far, the 3 km, so it doesn't really include the northern portion of Vancouver Island, so you kind of have to interpolate. But you can see that kind of move through there, and then you'll see that pressure jump there. And that's what's going to cause a lot of the wind to kick up through the South Sound there. And then you can see the pressure, low pressure, move off to the east here, and the pressure rise behind that. I mean, it's not an overly strong storm. If you're in November, you'd be like, oh yeah, it's another decent storm moving through the area. But in May, this is just highly unusual. And Gordon asks, yeah, I was raised up in the Seattle area. I was born and raised in Ballard. We moved around to Kent. Then eventually I lived in Nevada. I lived in California. I lived in Hawaii for 4 years. Yeah, anywhere along the Puget Sound, you really get some enhanced winds. I live kind of close to the Puget Sound here in Normandy Park too, and I got a big guy wire wind anemometer pole on the top of my house, so it gets a good run off the Puget Sound. And quickly when you move inland too, a lot of the terrain and the trees breaks up the wind speeds quite a bit. So once you get out towards the valleys like Issaquah and Kent Valley, Auburn Valley, some of these valleys, Snoqualmie up north as well too, you get wind sheltered areas. So you're not getting big winds once you get away from the water. A lot of these storms, even some of the bigger windstorms, the winds are significantly less when you get back into the valleys. The terrain will mix up the lower levels of the atmosphere. Trying to answer some more questions here. Yeah, let's take a look at that. Let's see just how much moisture is going to come rolling in here. So here's total precipitation. This is the last European model run here. You can see the storm kind of come in there and really targets Vancouver Island and BC. The Olympic Mountains get a lot of it. North Cascades. But man, look at all this falling here. Towards Hawaii, and there's a reason for this here too. This storm system out here, there's such a persistent high pressure over the Pacific Ocean here that these storms a lot of times don't make a lot of headway towards the Hawaiian Islands. So it's not going to be overly rainy tomorrow. I mean, it's going to be rainy, but it's not like we're going to get several inches in the Puget Sound or anything. Mainly the higher terrain of the Cascades, the Olympic Mountains, Vancouver Island's really going to get plastered with rainfall here, especially the higher terrain of BC as well. Yeah, the Kauai waterfalls will be going pretty good with this system here. And really, there's going to be some individual showers there in Hawaii. They're going to be pretty heavy too. So any place could still get some heavy rain, but there should be some persistent heavy rain there in Kauai. Oh, the Museum of Glass in downtown Tacoma set up a bunch of big tents in their plaza for an international blown glass show this weekend. Yeah, hopefully that doesn't get damaged. That would be a shame. Jeez. And here's what's going on now. Check out this low. This is just showing how unusual this low pressure is diving down this time of year, just off to the northwest of Hawaii there. You'll see this Gulf of Alaska low is, versus the background signal, it's a little bit unusual, but any storm that moves through at this time of year is going to kind of have that signal showing it's a little bit below average. But look at this. Well below average out here. It's kind of dancing around by Hawaii, but you see this high pressure that never really goes away, just kind of protects some of the eastern portions of the islands here. So you can see our storm system swing through here. Then it becomes a pretty deep low as it comes on Vancouver Island there and quickly moves in. And then look at this ridging that builds up over us. I'm hoping for a few nice days here. Reflect the sun, man. Thanks for the support, buddy. With the Arctic warming 3 to 5 times normal, it seems like these Rossby waves and our jet stream now act like a jet stream. Yeah, the worry is with some scientific papers are showing the jet stream is weakening. And so we're just kind of get stuck in separate patterns and the jet stream starts to meander more. There is some disagreement among scientists still. There's not a lot of data. We're in the initial stages of the research of just checking out how much the jet stream is going to be affected. But naturally, when you warm the poles, you're taking away that gradient. So it kind of intuitively, you would think that jet streams are going to become somewhat weaker as we go into the future. So that's kind of what we're watching for. And that's what some scientists are pointing towards. I know there's not 100% agreement on this yet, though, and we need more data to kind of make some good forecast on into the extended future. Thoughts on Mount Vernon and Bellingham? Is Mount Vernon more protected? I mean, Bellingham is just kind of in a little bit closer proximity to some of these low pressures that do move into Vancouver Island there. And some of the areas right along the water there kind of, let's see, let me show you guys here. So if you look at Bellingham, look at that south wind that comes up through there that can really punish the shoreline of Bellingham. But Mount Vernon is down further south and you're not really getting the same flow off the water. And for Bellingham, like the HUR is calling for gusts into 54 miles per hour. And look at this, Whidbey Island, West Point, or West Slopes, or whatever, West coastline of Whidbey Island, I'm trying to spit out here, towards 58 miles per hour as possible tomorrow. That's pretty amazing. If the jet stream weakens and retreats farther north, therefore less precipitation south, in some cases, yes, depending on the storm location, but I wish we had more data on it now. I know that Cliff Mass is not sold on the idea, for example, about a weaker jet stream per se and how much it has an effect on us. I've seen some some literature that the windstorms are eventually moving north and a little bit weaker for the Pacific Northwest, for example. Fort Casey State Park area on Whidbey. Yeah, that'd be a good place to check out there. This is, when is that supposed to hit there? Let me back up. We're going to 11Z, that's 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning there. So you want to be on Whidbey Island on the west coast there at 5 in the morning. Yeah, that'd be a good way to do it, Jonathan. He's staying up by Admiralty Inlet tonight and tomorrow. He's going to be getting up around 6 a.m. to witness the wind. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be good out on the northwest coast, Nia Bay out there. Yeah, that Antarctica one, I want to study that one a little bit more. I mean, that was an incredible heat wave they had there. What was that, about a month ago now? Deception Pass will be whipping. Yes, they will. So Puget Sound tomorrow. Looks like the peak for Seattle. Winds start picking up at like 5, 6 in the morning for Central Sound. And 7, 8, 9, 43 miles per hour for SeaTac there on the European. Actually, these other runs should be within range now here too. Let's see. This latest HUR looks like 40 miles per hour, so it backed off a little bit. Backed off on the Whidbey Island winds a little bit. Bellingham 51, a little bit down. Port Angeles. I mean, as you can see here, you're not going to get strong south winds at Port Angeles. You might get some westerly wind, but it should stay mostly over the sound. So you're probably not going to get an extreme amount of wind. You can see some of that area just east. Look at Squim, not as high of gusts. But Port Townsend, look at this. There's a sharp gradient here on big winds versus much calmer winds towards Squim. So you have to watch out for that area there. Well, the last La Nina, the third one, wasn't that exceptional other than just the big mountain snows. It was cooler than normal, and I think it went on into spring for a while. But I think that this is going to be each La Nina kind of has its own flavor, its own characteristics. So I think even if we had a beat, a forecast on third La Ninas, that I think that we're likely to have some surprises again. And yes, that's because of the Olympic Mountains. Appreciate the answering daily videos. Thanks for watching. Yeah, thanks for supporting the page, you guys. But man, look at some of these wind speeds up here on the Southern Cascades. I mean, 79 mile per hour gusts. That's crazy. That's crazy. So this is what Mount Rainier, Natchez. Which one is the? I'm drawing a blank here on what the higher terrain is just north of the Columbia River there. I'm sure somebody could tell me about it. Yeah, we haven't been that extreme here for third year La Ninas as far as lowland snow. But I mean, that could easily change with this next one. I would never put it past the La Nina year to bring us a big snowstorm. Saddest Pass. Thanks for the update there. So I'm going to close this one down, and we're going to look at here's the water vapor here. You can see that our storm's connection all the way back to this storm system out here across the Pacific. It's going to impact Hawaii coming up here. So our storm does have a subtropical tap. It's going to bring some pretty good rain to the higher terrain. Mount Adams. Okay, Mount Adams. Yeah, I was looking at that. Aaron Green's talking about the GFS with its huge hurricane out there, and I was going to show that here too. So this is the 0Z there. And is that actually, this is an earlier run. Let's go to the latest run, GFS here. And you know what? Let's go to Gulf of Mexico so we can look up close at this thing. The GFS, the Global Forecast System, likes to paint these strange hurricanes in the extended run. And this is not going to go out far enough. So we're going to back up into the 18Z. And we're going to go here. And off into the extended, the GFS loves to create these hurricanes and just loves to forecast them into becoming these monsters. Look at it, just blast Cuba there. It gets into the Gulf of Mexico and just goes berserk. You know, it bottoms out at a 950 millibar hurricane here and would just blast portions of the Gulf Coast down there. But a lot of times these are not accurate. There's some kind of weird thing going on in the physics of the GFS that likes to create these monster hurricanes in the extended forecast. The European has not been showing this. In fact, let's go back to the 12Z and let's just look and see if there's any sign of anything like that. I mean, you can see on the European at 360 miles out, there's not any kind of mean sea level pressure anomaly as you look out into the future of the Gulf of Mexico. So once the European started showing something similar, then maybe I'd start buying into it here. But the GFS is kind of notorious for that. Nathan Wolf says he plans to get his bachelor's in climate science so he can further study to find out what causes these climatic processes. Yeah, it's fun to go into that. You'd learn a lot. You'd love it. I don't know exactly what's happening. It's something to do. I was reading about it earlier, and I think that a lot of these systems end up actually happening. Let me back out here so I can show you what I'm talking about here. So we're going to go GFS, and we're going to go, let's just go North America. Screw it. And so as we go into the future here on the GFS, here comes that hurricane out here. Oh, I'm on the 0Z again. It updated for me and didn't want it to. Okay, back to the 18Z. The 0Z isn't going out far enough here. And there it goes. Come on. It's taking its sweet time. There it goes. It's in the Gulf of Mexico now. A lot of times what these do, they end up forming on the eastern Pacific here, the western portion of Mexico out here. And the GFS is just kind of getting in the position of this development incorrectly. Well, the GFS, yeah, I think the European actually did best with Sandy on that one. I think it had it diving back inland. It started a meme called the Euro nailed Sandy. Yeah, Reflect the Sun's talking about the part per million carbon dioxide Mauna Loa. Yeah, I mean the heat dome was still a lot of natural variability in that, but yeah, they're like even Cliff Mass agrees that those are going to become worse as we continue to warm the climate. We've increased the CO2 quite a bit, so it's just naturally going to make the planet warmer as a whole. Yeah, the Euro hasn't been great with the forming hurricanes, but the GFS kind of notorious for doing this. We'll see what happens here coming up. Well, you might get some warmer weather this weekend for the Willamette Valley. Foreign Fishing is asking about that. Yeah, GFS loves to make just these crazy storms in the extended forecast. Any preset for Northern California? Let's take a look at that, actually. I'm kind of wondering about that, too. So we'll look at the GFS's version of it. And you can see our storm dive in and really hammer British Columbia there. Man, look at California, just allergic to rain. Look at this, ridiculous. Barely a raindrop into California. What did you guys do down there? I mean, 384 hours out on the GFS and nary a raindrop across the state of California. That's incredible. You can see the track of that hurricane going through there, but yeah, that Lake Mead situation down there, boy, what a they really need some snow down there. Yeah, they're finding like bodies in barrels and stuff like that. Pretty crazy. I mean, a little bit of precip coming up for Eastern Washington, Oregon. I know it's really the southern Oregon Cascades, the east slopes, that are really hammered by this drought. So it doesn't look like anything big coming in the next couple weeks right now. Let's take a look at this here. I want to see. It looked like something was coming here. It looked like almost a thermal trough was going to form here. So there goes the system rolling through here. And now look at this. As the high pressure comes down, you can kind of see a thermal trough building up through California all the way into southern Oregon there. So maybe that's what's going to warm us up here. Let's actually look at the northwest. Yeah, you can see a little bit of a thermal trough moving up here. Let's look at surface temperature. Let's do Fahrenheit. Yeah, look at that, man. Whew. What are we going to do with this nonsense? Look at Saturday here for the Puget Sound. 70. I mean, I think people will just go nuts. Actually, let's do this. Let's do 6 hour max. Yeah, 68. That'd be up towards 70 for Seattle, into the 70s for the Willamette Valley. Man, that would be sweet. So here we go into Sunday. Look at that. 70 degrees in Seattle for Sunday. It looks like we might have a nice weekend coming up here. This would be pretty intense. Yeah, for some areas that are in drought conditions, I mean, once the heat gets going, once we get out of May, usually it's actually April, but once we get out of April and May, we really cut off the precipitation that we get here in the Pacific Northwest. So that's why it's important that we do build up this snowpack now. Thanks, Reflect the Sun again. Maybe off topic. Do you think we send power down and water down to California to support their grid? I mean, they might ask for it. I know in the past, California has asked us for a pipeline to the Pacific Northwest for water. And it actually might work. I mean, if you had to do it, I'm sure we could come up with something like that. Heat cranks the evaporation rate. Oh yeah, when you get hotter, for sure, it just sucks the moisture right out of there. Look at this for central Puget Sound, 70 degrees, man. And this is probably would be on the low side a little bit there too. When you're looking at something like this, 126 hours out, if you get good ridging, it tends to trend a little bit warmer. So we might get up into the 70s, and you'd see a lot of pasty white legs at Alki and some of the beaches around the Puget Sound here. Yeah, that's the thing to remember here too. It's like for Seattle, we're supposed to be averaging Like for Portland, let's see, temperature graph. Is this what I want here? Temperature. Yeah, I mean, 70 degrees is the average for Portland. Look at the end of the month there, 72. So it seems like we hit 70 and it's everybody's going to go crazy, but that's just pretty typical for this time of year here. Let's look at the European, what it's showing here. Let's check out what the 12Z Euro said here. Chances for a 1950 winter repeat, 1 in 100. I'd put a 1950 winter for the Pacific Northwest at more like 1 in 1,000. Even though that would probably be one of my biggest, best dreams. But I think that we're getting to a point climate-wise where I don't know if we're ever going to get there again, like what we had in 1950. The Euro is colder, but look at this. It has a nice day. Get up to 59 on Friday. Saturday, not bad, though. I mean, you could get mid-60s on Saturday. Sunday it cools us down a bit, but it keeps the Willamette Valley in eastern Washington, eastern Oregon warm. So it looks like some kind of system might be moving through there. Monday, Tuesday, kind of cool. Wednesday, Thursday. I mean, so there is some hope, but it looks like temperatures are still below average a little bit. Remember, SeaTac's supposed to be up towards 66, 67 this time of year. Yeah, so Mayan S, what do you think the winds will be like tomorrow, Friday Harbor, 7 a.m.? I think you're probably going to be pretty darn windy at Friday Harbor tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Let's take a look here. Friday Harbor. So yeah, it looks like late morning into early afternoon. You could be gusting up towards 50 miles per hour there for Friday Harbor. This is the European ensemble forecast right here. Uh-oh, we need a moderator in here. I think I cut him off early enough there. Yeah, we had some good storms in the 90s for Seattle. Well, we had the inaugural day storm in 93. We had the really big December 12th windstorm 1995. We had the huge windstorm in 1999 March. So we had 3 real classic windstorms that year. February 2019 was really impressive. That was a really good month. It still was not, I mean, it only got down into the 20s in Seattle, for example. In 1950 we hit 0. But it was a very good storm in February 2019. El Nino would definitely help break this drought in California. And that's why I think that they're a little bit worried here too, or actually more than a little bit worried, because La Nina does not bode well for California. El Nino years, they typically do much better rainfall wise through California. 1996 was a really good year too, especially for Seattle. Dan Marceau, born in North Seattle, 1960. All right. Yeah, I was born in Ballard in 1972. Yeah, I was able to kick that guy off pretty quick there. I guess that means the channel's getting a little bit bigger when you start getting spammers and stuff. Let's take a look at the European, the weeklies here. When was this initiated? Was this yesterday? It was. This runs once a day here. So this goes day at a time here, 21, 22. So that's what happens. It kind of flattens the ridge out a little bit on Sunday, a little bit more than the GFS. So that might temper the the temperatures on Sunday a bit. But man, look at the troughing, this freaking polar vortex reaching out from the North Pole all the way down late May, Pacific Northwest, just keeping us in this all the way into June here. This troughing is relentless, man. So yeah, I'm assuming that MJO is probably playing into this also right now. The La Nina conditions and the MJO is probably lined up to where we're just getting this persistent troughing going on over us. Here we are going into mid-June. And really getting too far out there, but hello from Toledo, Washington, down there in I-5. Shout out to Ballard. Somebody lost a tree in their backyard last November. Yeah, it's pretty typical November weather around here. Yeah, that's why that August 29, 2015 storm was so potent. We just had a lot of leaves on trees. I mean, if you just have a bare branch tree sitting there, it's really easy for the wind to just run through those branches. When you start putting leaves on them, I mean, you can increase the drag more than double on just a bare branch. Reflect the sun after we seen day after tomorrow effects of these massive drops in cold weather. I mean, that's what we were talking about earlier. The potential there is that the jet streams are weakening, which could lead to more meandering of the jet stream. Again, the science is a little bit, we don't have enough data to really make educated decisions on that yet, but a lot of scientists are saying that we are suffering from a weaker jet stream, which might tend to increase more troughing and more blocking patterns, but we still need more data. There's not agreement with scientists yet on that. Kevin Moore, hello. So you can see that these driving systems here, the one out over the Pacific and the Gulf of Alaska low driving this system, you can see it really starting to spin up here. It's really getting it to it's developing now. It's going to reach its mature stage right before it makes landfall on Vancouver Island. And that should be, we're only looking, when exactly is that supposed to be exactly? Let's look at this a little bit closer here. So this has it happening at about 4 a.m. tomorrow morning. So yeah, we're about about 6.5 hours from this cyclone being mature, and you can see that bad boy really spinning up there off the coast of Vancouver Island. If this storm was 100 miles south, we'd be looking at a severe blow for the Puget Sound and the Willamette Valley. Yeah, Reflect the Sun talking about we've lost 50% of the Arctic ice since I was born in 1965. Yeah, that's pretty depressing. That's really bad. I mean, we're to the point where we've lost most of the old ice up there, and really all the ice that occurs up there now is just new refreezing. Thank you, Kevin Moore. Thanks for the channel support, buddy. I mean, MZ asked about wind speeds being lower east of Seattle. Once you get into the terrain and away from the water, they do tend to be a little bit lower. But once you get high enough in the terrain, then you tend to get those bigger wind speeds, like ridge tops and mountains, for example. And then when you get into eastern Washington, there's going to be a pretty powerful gradient ripping down the east slopes of the Cascades and through eastern Washington. If you guys don't know, there is a blowing dust advisory out there for tomorrow too. Eastern Washington, blowing dust advisory. I was thinking about going out and chasing somewhere, but I'm not sure where I would target. You could target this blowing dust, or you could go out to the coastline, northwest Washington, or you could go out to western Whidbey Island. No one special. Appreciate your great coverage. Thank you. Thank you from Hawaii. Kelly Hamilton, welcome. Smash that thumbs up. Yeah, stay up all night, watch that storm. Yeah, I mean, what are they talking about? Visibility between 1/4 and 1 mile and blowing dust expected. So you can see your cities there: Grand Coulee, Mansfield, Ritzville. A lot of dust to blow around. Be ready for sudden drop to visibility to near zero. Yeah, thanks guys. Thanks for the support and the kind words. Flight planning? All right, good to hear it. Yeah, they're getting some pretty severe weather down there in Kansas. You could see that. Let's actually bring up the... Look at that. Oh, it's like a mesoscale convective system going on out there. Let's put this into motion. Look at this just roaming across Kansas. Probably just tons of lightning going on underneath that storm there. You can see a little bit weaker system down there through Oklahoma right now. Some good storms down there near the Mexico border. But yeah, Kansas is taking the cake tonight. Getting some good rainfall through the state there. Going out. Oh, I'm gonna head out probably on Monday to chase. I'm probably gonna be out for about 10 days, and I'm gonna bring my laptop with me so I can do my morning briefings and stuff for the Pacific Northwest. That Pacific Northwest always comes first. Thanks, Troy Fox, for the kind words. Yeah, the derecho in Iowa and Minnesota a couple days ago. Yeah, I was front row for that. I caught those shelf clouds there. Did I go to the Derringer School District? No, I was in Seattle schools. Yeah, I was out there for the huge winds out there in South Dakota. Did I put them on this computer? I'm trying to remember if I did or not. Let's see here. So here's some of the pictures of that. You can see the QLCS tornado in here if you look closely. Right here. You can see all the birds as this huge line of winds and this big line of thunderstorms came in. These birds just taking off out in front of it. But this doesn't even do it justice. It was so freaking scary. Once this thing would even start to overtake you, the winds would pick up so hard. It was just amazing, the power of this storm. Yeah, there was some wind gusts over 100 miles per hour with this line of storms. And here's off looking the other direction. I mean, it doesn't really, it looks cool, but it doesn't do it justice to just how incredibly nasty it was when you got caught back under here. So the dust storm for tomorrow, that's timed out to be, what does it say here? Let's check this out. Blowing dust advisory. Calling for from noon to 10 p.m. Wednesday. So during the day tomorrow. Yeah, you might get some go-arounds at SeaTac and Payne Field with these winds. It's possible. Thanks, you guys. Oh, that derecho a couple of years ago. Yeah, that thing was insane. People were calling it a land hurricane. That's pretty funny. Yeah, the hail in Northeast Oregon, that was insane. My goodness. Learn to stream. Remember, Mike, to stream later than 9. I shoot with Sony cameras right now. I try to use some really wide angle lenses and I have a couple really big zoom lenses that I use. And I try to use GoPros to kind of capture, to document my storm chases. I have a couple tricks that if I ever get somebody to go storm chasing with me, I'll teach you about the tricks. Because some of my tricks are how I get some of my best shots and I don't want to disclose them just yet. But man, you can see this thing really cranking up here. And let's back up there. You can see the wind advisories. Whidbey Island, Port Townsend, San Juan, Skagit, Whatcom counties close to the water. Washington coast, generally north. Hoquiam north. Looks like Ocean Park and Long Beach down there are not included in that, but they still could get some gusts in the 40s. Looks like Ocean Shores is included. Indian Reservation all the way up 101, all the way to Nia Bay. And don't forget the winter weather advisory too. If you guys are traveling eastbound, watch out for that snow going over the passes. Yeah, September 2019, we had some really good thunderstorms that year. Those are some of the favorite ones here. the high base storms coming off the Cascades, moving from the east out over the Puget Sound. Those are great. Actually, de-icing on wings of airplanes can happen any time of year, really. It depends too, because a lot of times, if you're during the summertime though, and you do build some ice on your wings, by the time you're on the ground and you clean the plane and you reboard the plane, it's been an hour and that ice is long gone. So it usually is like a spring, an early spring, winter, and late fall type phenomena. Oh, the WRF GFS is running already. Yeah, let's take a look at that actually. Leave the Go 16 alone there. And probably 4 kilometers. We'll look at the 12 km. We'll check sea level pressure here, winds. Just kind of see what it's pegging for the storm here. Back up a little bit and check that bad boy out. Look at that. Just deepening all the way until landfall there. Look at that pressure gradient on the south side of that storm coming all the way down the Washington coast. So you can see why the wind advisory is generally ocean shores north as the gradient's much stronger there. It starts to relax a bit over Oregon. The Willamette Valley just not favorable for high winds here. But you can kind of see a strong gradient going through the sound as well, but not a real big windstorm coming in here. But still, with a lot of leaves on the trees, you can get some nuisance power outages, and you will notice it tomorrow. It's going to be a nice November day in the middle of May. Yeah, the forest fires we've had the last few years have just been kind of miserable, man. It makes a nice summer day miserable. I know somebody actually said they liked that. I found that kind of interesting, but um, really I don't see any east wind potential with this system as it rolls in. As you can see, it's kind of, the gradients never get orientated from east to west here in front of the storm system. I mean, some southeast winds, but not easterlies to the gaps or anything, gaps to the Cascades. Reflect the sun. So yeah, hurricane season. Reflect the sun is asking about what is the hurricane season looking like. So that is basically when we get La Nina years, you tend to get increased hurricane activity over the Atlantic Ocean, but that kind of suppresses hurricane activity over the Pacific Ocean. So for Hawaii, it's probably going to be a down year in the Eastern Pacific. Up against Mexico is probably a little bit of a down year, and maybe a little bit of an elevated year hurricane wise for portions of the Gulf of Mexico and Atlantic. But again, it's hard to say. Sometimes they make these forecasts a few months out and they're not that accurate. So, but we have such good weather models lately that we can really see these hurricanes developing, sometimes 10 days out pretty accurately. And we're getting really good with the forecast track of these storms. Yeah, the thick smoke just breathing it nonstop for a couple days is really wicked. I would cover your tomatoes. Yeah, my wife put the tomatoes out recently and I warned her about it. She probably should have left them in a little bit longer, but if you get plastic tarps over them, they don't blow off. They'll be just fine, I think. So where do you go to purchase some Pacific Northwest weather apparel? So yeah, you would go to my spread shop. Let's see if I can bring that up here. So it's on spread shop here. I don't know if maybe I can just copy. I think you can just click that. You can get to it. There's a lot of different designs in here, and there's a lot of different things you can buy. And again, if we get to 10,000 subscribers, I can put these on the YouTube channel, and I'll probably be able to do some different kind of items too. The record heat in India is probably connected to the Madden-Julian oscillation a little bit more than it would be to La Nina. Yeah, sometimes it's getting less likely that we get, models are so good now that we don't get storm surprises so much. And that used to be one of my favorite things about the weather is sometimes all of a sudden, hey, this windstorm is upon you. Like the inaugural day of the storm was supposed to be windy, and all of a sudden the next morning you've got this colossal 1 in 30 year windstorm just ripping trees apart. And that's kind of lost now. We would see a storm like that coming 6 days out probably now, and so we would know it was on the way. And so you build up all this hype, and then sometimes these storms don't come in as strong as forecast. All right, thanks for the kind words, Matt Lewis. 8-year-old son is really enjoying watching the way you simplify the details and analyze weather for the different maps. Awesome, yeah. Yeah, I talk about my son with this a lot too. Annette Castellanos Guillen. I remember that storm. Yeah, that was a really incredible storm there. I was going to Green River Community College. But yeah, it is better to have the tools to see these storms coming for sure. And I know the one in 1995, December, was forecast pretty well too. I remember 3-4 days out, we had a pretty good beat on just how powerful that storm was going to be for the West Coast. And it was correct too. Yeah, that April snowstorm down there for Portland, that was pretty crazy. Yeah, we've had some good windstorm busts here too. That's the problem. Oh, yawning there. So the problem is we get these windstorm forecasts, and then sometimes we just see a huge storm that's going to come somewhere in our general vicinity. But even if we do get a big windstorm, a lot of the times it doesn't impact certain regions of the Pacific Northwest. Pierce Community. Well, if you guys had a lot of trees on the campus there, you probably had some coming down. Pacific Northwest Weather Lover, hello. One of the moderators. Oh. Doing good. I had to kick one person off here. They started spamming the place. So yeah, you can see the thunderstorms raging over Kansas right now. Everybody just joining. You can see the storm just really cranking up onto Vancouver Island as we speak. You can see the bent back occlusion just kind of forming in this storm system right here. And that's where the strongest winds are, right back in here. And these are really going to hammer Vancouver Island. Should bring some pretty powerful winds up through the Bellingham, San Juan area, Whidbey Island. And pretty good winds going through the Puget Sound tomorrow morning too, especially Tacoma area. And Seattle should see some good gusts as well. Wind advisory out for the Washington coast also. Memorial Day weekend weather near Forks. Probably a little too far out yet, but here I'll show you what we were looking at. Let's just go ahead and look at this. Let's back this up to the 12Z, and we're going to look at the European. Actually, let's go back to the control run here. So this is the ensemble control 12Z. This goes out pretty far, but check this out. We're getting some ridging here as we go through Friday and Saturday. We kind of flatten this out a little bit Sunday. Build a ridge again here a bit during next week, but then look at the troughing kind of moving by here. The control run is a little bit better. There is a ridge nearby. So this is getting later. What day exactly is Memorial Day? Is that the 30th? I believe that's the 30th, isn't it? Oh, yeah, that's right. Ben Randall, that 07 storm there for the Oregon coast. So let's see. The control, let's look at the mean. Back this up. We'll go to 12Z. Cameron asks, is it going to be windy tomorrow? I just looked at my flag and it's barely moving. Yep, you're going to pick it up pretty good there in Tacoma. You're probably going to look at some gusts about 40 miles per hour. So you might get some power outages in your area down there in Tacoma tomorrow. Let's see. Look at that ridge. That's a nice ridge building up there on through the weekend for the European. Kind of starts to lay down that ridge a little bit as we go on into next week, and things start to get kind of wonky here as we go into the extended. Look at this low pressure off of California there. It's kind of interesting, but that's not telling us much here. Let's go ahead and look at Geopotential height. There goes that storm system moving through here. Then we kind of build this ridge. So we do have a chance for a nice weekend this week coming up. And I think we all deserve it. What do you say? Duval, Washington. Duval. Why am I drawing a blank on Duval? I know where Duval is. I mean, it'll be gusty, but you're a little bit inland too. And if you're in a sheltered area terrain-wise, you know, that always kind of hampers wind speeds as well. What's this giant thing out in the ocean here doing? That's going to bring some thunderstorms to Hawaii probably. And this is kind of giving the subtropical tap. You can see how our storm cooks all the way back into the storm and gives that tropical and subtropical tap to our storm. Yeah, Kauai's going to get some good rain out of this system there. Fort Worden. I'm not sure where Fort Worden is. Yeah, I saw Duval there. Yeah, it's by Carnation. I knew that. I don't know why I was drawing a blank here. I must be getting tired. Let's see how much of this cold air. Let's see that cold air move just down over us on the day Thursday. The European is not showing that much of a thunderstorm threat with this, so I don't know why that was the case. Let's see here. A little bit through the Puget Sound there, maybe through the Columbia River Valley down there. We could get a lightning strike around the region here on Thursday with that cold air around. Yeah, Kauai has got some big floods. I remember when I was living out there, it was a pretty bad flooding event too. It washed out one of the roads there, one of the dike fails, I think it was. Not high winds for the Puget Sound, but some gusts up towards 40 miles per hour aren't out of the realm of possibility, and probably some nuisance power outages. Yeah, so the snow in April brought down some trees. Interesting. Yeah, that heavy wet snow will do that for sure. Is this website free to use? Which website is that? Oh, Weatherbelt. No, this is a pay site here. I have the commercial version. So I'm okay to share this with you guys. If I was not paying them, then this could be a problem because, you know, I'm paying for the commercial version so I can kind of show people what I'm doing here. Yeah, I work with Alaska Weather all the time. I dispatch flights up there all the time. Anchorage has extreme weather too. Yeah, it really gets cold in the interior of Alaska up there. And Juneau weather is so extreme that we've set up our own proprietary anemometers up and around the airport on the higher terrain. And when the winds are coming off of the continent certain directions and speeds, we can't even start to fly into Juneau, for example. The turbulence can be so severe. Ron Dog, thanks for the support, buddy. Yeah, US 26. I used to work at the Hillsborough Tower out there. I believe the Ghost 18 satellite is up and running. You know, that's something I have to look at also. I've been so caught up. I have to look at this new information on the Ghost 18 satellite. Death Valley, California. Let's actually look at that. Well, here, let's look at California South, temperature. Boom, boom. Actually, let's just do all of California because it's going to kind of block that out. This is Death Valley on the California map here. I mean, look at this. Some of these areas. Looks like Death Valley, 107, 108, 109. Man, can you imagine living down there? One of the town names there in Death Valley is Furnace. And you can probably imagine why that is the case. But yeah, it's hot down there as per usual. You can see the chilly air in the Sierras, and then you drop down into Death Valley, much warmer. It's one of my favorite places to visit when I go down there too. Just driving down there, it's such a the terrain is so unusual. And if you guys didn't know, it's like 282 feet below sea level there. So the salt just kind of gets trapped there on the salt flats and the Badlands, or not the bad. They call it bad water, not the Badlands. I don't know what I'm saying that for. Bad water down there in Death Valley. Yeah, I would say it's time to plant corn, I think for sure, around the Pacific Northwest for those of you guys doing that. Yeah, Ryan built this site, yes. Are we going to have over 3 degrees, 3 to 100 degree days at the end of June this year? I would bet that we are not going to have 3 days of 100 plus for the Pacific Northwest in late June. Highly unlikely. Yeah, thanks, Carvin. I'm growing a grapefruit tree here. Yeah, better keep that thing covered tomorrow. Yeah, Death Valley is a very interesting place, and the terrain is very nice out there. Some of the rocks and stuff. If you get any clouds too, the sunsets are nice. It's a really interesting place. Highly recommend. The European weeklies, what do they show for June? Let's look again here. Let's bounce out to North America. And let's look at temperature anomaly first, 7 day. And let's kind of go through here. And as you can see, the Pacific Northwest below average all the way into June. Look at that. So this goes through into late June, and it really, you can see how the Intermountain West is above, the plains are above average, but Alaska, West Coast, BC, Washington, Western Oregon, and some of the California coast. Look at Mexico too, below average. Interesting. Yeah, maybe we'll get a nice chilly June, which would be, it'd be relatively nice because you'd still be in the 60s probably most of the time. Yep, I got the spammer quick that time. Jordan Trumpner. I'm going on a motorcycle trip to the western interior, Wyoming, Utah, first week of June. So let's see. Let's back up the first week of June here. Okay, so you're going from western interior, Wyoming, Utah. So Wyoming, Utah. It actually looks pretty warm, but if you look in western Wyoming there, though, it's a little bit below average. So I would definitely check back. But you guys are just, looks like you guys must be going on a road trip through that area there. Let's see. Let's look at precipitation anomaly 7 day. It does look below average there, though, through the early part of June. I don't know. The first couple of days of Wyoming looks a little bit wet. So I would check back on this one. I don't know if you guys could change it to further south, but like California, Nevada, maybe Highway 66 down through New Mexico might be a little better. But you guys probably have your reasons why you're going through Wyoming and Utah as well. But it looks a little bit wet to start June, but then it kind of dries off as you get like to the first week. Persistent dust devil. Yeah, I want some dust devils this year over in Eastern Washington. I love chasing those things. I'm going to do some live streams if I chase over there on some good days. Having a trip to Quebec, Canada this summer in late June, early July. That's tornado season up there. I mean, you can get it. Canada, that's when they do get their tornadic storms, is in the summertime there. Oh, Yellowstone Teton. Yeah, I mean, early June is usually pretty good out there, and that's probably why you plan the trip then. But it's still, it looks like it might be a little bit wet to start, but then it looks better as you go on a little bit into June. Closest I've been to tornado, I've been inside a tornado. So I've been inside a tornado before, yes, and I've been very close to EF2 tornadoes. I've been within 100 yards of an EF2 tornado twice that I know of. Dust Devil in Skagit Valley, a lot like Eastern Washington, some good ones. That'd be fun to see. Yeah, Dan Marceau says I've seen them near Ritzville. Ritzville is really a Dust Devil powerhouse. That place just crawling with Dust Devils. Highest winds that come with Dust Devils. Well, the thing is that a Dust Devil has actually hit a structure and killed somebody. So I mean, some of them can pack winds to 80 miles per hour. So if it knocks something over on you, it could hurt you. Yeah, it's not. It's not. It gets scary when you get that close to a tornado. I mean, the EF2, both of those were very strong tornadoes, and I was very close to them. But I kind of knew that the tornadoes that I were in were weaker tornadoes. But yeah, it's never fun getting too close to a tornado because it doesn't take much. I mean, if a power pole gets pushed onto you or a tree falls on you, it doesn't matter what kind of winds really are packing that punch. You can get 60-mile-per-hour wind and knock a tree down on you. It doesn't take very strong tornado to do that. I have not done hurricane chasing yet. I was going to chase Hurricane Michael, but I never actually done it. I mean, I like chasing our windstorms here sometimes, but after an hour or two of just sitting in windy conditions and driving rain, I kind of get bored actually. So I don't know if I would be the greatest hurricane chaser or not. When I go out to the tornado alley, I want to see good structure. I like to see lightning. I like to photograph it. I like to see tornadoes. I want to see cool scenery. So hurricanes are probably not my thing. I know some people really love them. Yeah, you can hear like sometimes it sounds like a waterfall when you're close to a tornado. You get some really interesting sounds. It kind of just sounds like almost like a plane a couple hundred yards away or something like that, like a jet engine. Yeah, the Portland Vancouver 1972 EF3 tornado. The F3 tornado that killed 6 people, and we led the nation here in Washington in tornado deaths that year. Sid asks, how strong can the Taku winds get in Juneau? They can go up over 100 miles per hour. Those offshore winds are mean, and they're extremely turbulent going into Juneau, and they've come close to taking planes down. So you have to be really careful. I don't know if you guys know Juneau, but there's a channel there that gets up close and personal to those huge ice fields and the terrain off to the east. And those Taku winds, those offshore winds, will really come roaring down there when you get the right pressure gradient going. And it gets very intense. And so that's why we have anemometers, and we make sure that the wind speeds are not too extreme for us to fly. So like when you're on Alaska Airlines up into Juneau, you're not going down the channel unless it's safe. We don't take any chances with things like that. So if you're going down the channel, you know it's safe. So maybe 50 years ago I'd be a lot less, gung ho about traveling on a plane up into Juneau in the wintertime, but when the offshore winds are going. But now we have a really good handle of what's going on up there. We're really safe. We're really conservative. But those Taku winds can get over 100 miles per hour easily on some of those downslopes. Yeah, tornadoes. I love picturing tornado. I love seeing tornadoes. The windiest place in Washington State. That's a good one. Some places are persistently windy, like near Ellensburg, where they've set up those wind farms there, because you heat up eastern Washington more and western Washington stays cooler. So you create this gradient that goes on much of the year where it brings that westerly flow through the Cascades of Washington, and we get a persistent west wind. But as far as like really windy conditions with like mid-latitude cyclones, it's probably the Washington coast for sure. Like the northwest tip, the Washington coast is probably the windiest when we get windstorm scenarios. And you can see like the higher terrains too, kind of throws a monkey wrench into the whole thing, trying to predict where the highest winds are going to be. Because you can see on these ridge top and some of these mountain tops, the top of Mount Rainier, for example, it's very windy. I may be moving to Indiana the first of the year. Can you say much about the weather? Well, Indiana, you can get some severe weather out there, that's for sure. I mean, you get cold winters out there as well. You get some exciting weather out there, though, for sure. I mean, you get snow, you get thunderstorms, you can get flooding too. Yeah, Tatoosh Island gets really high winds during the nice mid-latitude cyclones. And reflect the sun, talking about the oceans are absorbing 7 to 10 atomic bombs per second. That's an insane amount of energy. Yeah, the ocean collects most of the CO2 that humans pump into the atmosphere. And there's going to become a point where the oceans are not going to be able to absorb that much. And then it'll be stuck in our atmosphere, and it'll really increase warming quite a bit. As far as snow and severe storms go, yeah, I mean, Indiana's pretty far north. You can get some good snowstorms there. And severe storms also, yeah, you can get tornadoes even in Indiana. I mean, it's any place really east of the Rockies has access to that good moisture. You just don't get the huge supercells like you will over portions of the plains. You will get them at times, but not nearly with the same frequency. Yeah, North Indiana lake effect snow, a good point. Yeah, Columbia River Gorge really gets strong winds too, especially when we get offshore winds. The Columbia River Gorge east of Portland really rips through there. Very impressive easterly winds. Acidity of the oceans increase with the increase of CO2 absorption. Yes, they do. South of Portland. What are my thoughts on the Bermuda Triangle? I don't know really anything about the Bermuda Triangle other than there's been some reports to, I don't know, some boats and planes go missing out there. I'm not sure what it's about though. You're inspiring me to start making some weather videos also. Yeah, I mean, we need more people doing the weather, especially the Pacific Northwest. I see these people doing these YouTube videos for eastern portions and for like the entire country, but nobody really focuses up here. That's what's inspired me to start doing it. Yeah, Coast Guard Alaska shows weather extremes up there. Yeah, some of the storms that roam up through the southern coast of Alaska out to the Aleutians and up in the Bering Sea are just incredible. Tropical Storm Frida or Hurricane Frida in the 60s. What were the highest? I don't know offhand because I know it was a typhoon at one point, so I assume over 75 miles per hour. But then that merged with the upper level trough coming towards the west coast, and that's what created the Columbus Day storm. What part of the Pacific Northwest do you think has the best climate for growing fruits and vegetables? The Yakima Valley is really prime for that kind of stuff. Growing the Yakima Valley is really good for growing for agricultural reasons. You can grow all kinds of stuff over there. Keep Montana content coming. Yeah, I went to school in Montana actually too. I went to school in Helena, Montana during 1998, the Meteorological Technical Institute out there. It's since went away. But yeah, Yakima, there's places in Eastern Washington that grow some really nice crops. Yakima is just really exceptionally good. I drove to Bend from Seattle in 2020 during a big heat wave, and the wind was whopping 50 through the gorge. Really hot wind, felt very odd. Yeah, that's sometimes the eastern portions heat up really powerfully, and then you get the strong west wind going through the gorge, and sometimes you'll get that in reverse in the winter when you get those offshore winds. Oh yeah, so ocean effect snow. Here, let me back out a little bit, and I'll show you kind of, guys, what goes on here. So basically our ocean effect snows. Oh, let's do the European so it shows something here. Let's do upper air temperature, 850. So you'll notice this cold air kind of moving in here. And basically what happens with ocean effect snow, nobody really calls it that, but technically that's what's going on. We'll get like Arctic air that rolls off British Columbia here. And as it rolls off, you got to remember the ocean is very warm out here, relatively speaking anyway. You know, it's in the 40s or 50s, while Arctic air coming off the continent can be around 0 degrees Fahrenheit. And as it rolls off over the Pacific Ocean here, as it's warmer, you're going to get instability. And so that heat wants to rise up through that cold air. And then you get the cold air cumulus that form offshore here. And then you'll get cyclogenesis, which will steer these showers back into the Pacific Northwest. And that can wrap around the Olympics and cause convergence zones and bring big snowfalls in the Cascades, sometimes even thunder snow with those types of setups when you get that really cold Arctic air over the Pacific Ocean. The ocean is warm, instability, that air wants to rise, creates cumuliform clouds, and then it rolls that onshore into the Pacific Northwest. And basically it can continue on for a while too, as that Arctic air continues to pour off the continent and back into Washington and Oregon, or even back into Vancouver Island and British Columbia as well. So that's kind of what the ocean effect snows that we do get here are about. Yeah, our biggest storms here are definitely remnants of extratropical typhoons in Japan that come across. They race across the Pacific Ocean there, and sometimes they're the remnants of old typhoons, and they'll meet up with like upper level troughs and then redevelop here on the West Coast and just can give us some really big windstorms. What's the current location of barometric pressure with the current storm? Where do you think it will make landfall? It looks like it's going to make landfall right here on the tip of Vancouver Island. In fact, let's look at the latest high resolution rapid refresh here. You can see it out here. It's only showing 1,000 millibars. This is not the up-to-date one, but it's probably going to get a little bit deeper than that. 986. It's kind of got cut off there, but you can see it where it's going to make landfall on Vancouver Island there. Let's see if the GFS 0Z is running here, and it is. So right now, this is about what, 8 o'clock? So we're almost to 6Z here. So it's about 996, and it's deepening still. 990, 989 when it makes landfall there on the 993 or so, 989 when it makes landfall on the northern tip of Vancouver Island. Those typhoons can spawn bomb cyclones. That is correct. How do you block that guy? Jeez. They were back again. The spammer was getting us there. I'm getting a little bit tired here. I might have to end the stream here shortly. Let's see, how long have I been on here? About 90 minutes. Yeah, I'll have to do these live streams a little bit more. Maybe we'll get some nice weather here. I'll go over some, like, one of my favorite weather phenomena for the Pacific Northwest is the marine pushes after we get like really hot. We've got 3 really hot days, and then we get that big onshore push. It's like Mother Nature just turned on the air conditioner. I love those. Yeah, thanks for deleting the spam. Yeah, those spammers, man. What's up with that? So let's see what the latest GFS is saying here for Saturday. Let's do 6-hour max. Oh, it cooled us down. Oh, this is the European. What am I doing here? Let's do GFS. Yeah, I think it's just we might have looked at this already. But yeah, the GFS is showing a nice weekend coming up. The European has a decent day Saturday, and then kind of a clipping us with some clouds there on Sunday, cooling us down, but still looks like a pretty nice day. Yeah, that heat during the end of June was ridiculous. I quit for tonight. Goodbye. Thanks for stopping that spammer, Pacific Northwest weather lover. Yeah, you guys check out the rest of the video here. So I'm gonna Yeah, Central Valley, California. I'm going to end the stream here, and I'm going to do another briefing tomorrow morning while the wind is going on, and I'll do the regular briefing. We'll kind of talk about the storm again tomorrow, and we'll look at what is happening around the sound and what we can expect during the morning. So thanks for everybody for stopping by. Thanks for the channel support. You guys are awesome. Yeah, thanks for Rondog. Good night. All right, thanks everybody. I'm going to cut the stream out here, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. We'll do this again as usual.